Hello everyone, welcome to Titan Web Tutorials. In this tutorial we will configure SSO with Salesforce as identity provider, and we will do zero to hero SSO configuration. We'll start from scratch and we'll show you the whole process. So this is my Titan Web project. We have a simple site, homepage, we have a couple of pages. And what we want to do, we want to protect some of these pages using SSO. So let's say we have the customer service page and we want to protect this. Whoever is within our Salesforce organization will be able to access this page using SSO. All right, so in the pane here, we have the project settings. We can go to user access and we can turn on SSO and configure it. Right now we have not configured the SSO, so we'll go to my account, we'll configure the SSO in Salesforce, generate a certificate, and then we'll be off to the races. Alright, so let's head over to my account and show you what we're looking for. So I'm gonna head over to push settings logs and we'll scroll down to the bottom. We see SSO and the grant access button. Alright, so we have a bunch of information here that we need to configure in Salesforce, and we'll get back to this screen. So I'll leave this guy open and I'll head to Salesforce. First thing I'll start with is a certificate. So we're in the setup in Salesforce, search for certificate, click on the certificate and key management, and we'll create a self-signed certificate. Let's call this Titan Web SSO. And that's wonderful. Key size can stay as it is, and we'll hit save. So we have our certificate. Let's download it, and there it is. All right, our next step is head over to apps, and I'm going to go to App Manager and create a new connected app. And I'll name this Titan Web SSO. And if you have configured the Titan Form SSO, it's very, very similar. It's just within the Titan Web project, it's a little different in settings, but the Salesforce side of things is exactly the same. So we'll give this an email, and our next step is enable SAML. All right, the entity ID, you can put SAML at salesforce.com. The access URL we're going to grab from the Titan screen, and let's just review this. So subject type is the username, and we will need to move this to SAML2 name ID format persistent, or you can do transient as well. That's fine. And the issuer is your org ID, and the IDP certificate is what you just generated, or if you have one already you can use it as well, as long as you have it downloaded and you have access to it. So I'm going to select Titan Web SSO, and the signing algorithm stays the same. Let's just go ahead and grab the access URL. I'm going to head over again to my account. I left this window open, and the SSO, I have the identity provider entity ID. I can use it here as well, or you can give a different URL for this guy, and the access URL is what we get from Titan right there, and we'll paste it over here. So this is basically the URL for your organization, and we will hit save. So this is our first step, and we'll give it a second. And now what we want to make sure is that we give it access to profiles to be able to access this connected app. We'll look into it in a second. For now, since I want to use custom attributes such as a session, I would like the users to be able to use their own session once they interact with the Titan Web project. So what I will do here is I'll add SF session. Let's call this custom attribute so we'll know. And we'll insert the field in my instance, and you can add whatever you want. You can add labels, you can grab stuff from the user, you can pass to Titan whatever custom attributes you like. So in my instance, I'm just going to select API session ID. I'll hit apply and save, and now every time SSO we'll come to Titan, we'll get that attribute as well. Let's click manage and see what we see. So we're still within the connected app. Let's take a little look at this. We see we have SAMA login information. This is something we will need in order to configure Titan with it. So you have two things here, and if you have multiple communities, you will see more as well. Let's just take a look. This is your regular organization settings. So if you want your SSO users to be standard users in Salesforce, these are the parameters you will need to take. So IDP initiated URL, you take this guy and you configure the Titan to look at this URL for the login. If you're using a community, then you will need to, and again, if you have multiple communities, you will see more here. In my instance of Salesforce, I have just one community. So, and I want to authenticate this community users, I will grab this login URL. So this is a very important part. And if you do use communities, whenever you authenticate, make sure you have a real community user. Don't just go to the community like so. If I'll open the community page and I'll click on the community, it will log me into the community, but it will log me in as an admin. And that means I'll have the session of the admin login, and it's not going to configure it correctly. So you actually have to open incognito page and log in as a community user. Also, don't go to the contact ID, to the contact, the community user contact, and do login as. Properly log in from the login screen of the community. If I can simulate this, so I'll go here, I'll open an incognito window, and this is what you should do. So it takes you to the login page, and you properly log in with a community user. Once I hit login, I'll probably be logged in as a community user. All right, so that's about communities. We'll take a look at that soon, how to handle this as well. All right, so what's important here is profiles. You gotta give your profiles access to the connected app. So whoever you want to be able to use this, to be able to log in with their SSO, their profile has to show here, has to be selected here. So let's say in my instance, I'll select system administrator, and let's say I want, later on we'll hook up the community as well. So I'll select a Gold Partner user and Gold Partner user clone. I don't remember which one of them my community user used. All right, so we'll save this. And now we're technically set from the Salesforce side. So let's head back to Titan Web, and we will configure this part. So let's start with standard users. So what I need to do is SSO login URL. You can provide SSO logout URL. You can do redirect. You can play with it however you like. In my instance, I'm just going to leave this empty. This is the most basic configuration. And what I need to do is grab the certificate I saved on my local machine. All right, so I'm just going to move this aside, and I'll grab my downloaded certificate. I'll put it somewhere I can read it, and this is all we need. I'll put the certificate over here. Now with some luck, if I hit test, we should be authenticated. All right, we're all good. Thank you for authenticated, apply, and we're good to go. Now let's head back to our Titan Web project and configure our SSO. So I'll head back to the project settings, user access. I turned on the SSO, hit configure, it will authenticate me, I'm in, and now you can start looking at the settings. So the use Salesforce session means whoever comes into the SSO and authenticates himself, whenever he runs a get or runs a push against Salesforce, let's say you're creating a case in our instance, then it will create the case under that username. So we will not use the integration user that you set up your Form Titan connection to Salesforce to. We will use that SSO authenticated user session. So let's use this in this instance in our standard Salesforce user. And what we need to choose from here is where to grab the session from the SAML attribute. So if you remember, we added a custom attribute to the connected app, and it's called SF Session Custom Attribute, and we'll select this. And here you can map into a parameter that whatever you want from the SSO. So we get from Salesforce by default portal user, email, username, and user ID. So we can map into a parameter. You can add parameter as you wish, and you can use them later to run queries from the user ID or username. You can pull in data based on that parameter. So it is important to map some information about the user so we can use it later. Let me show you real quick how to add a parameter. I'm just going to hit apply, and you can go to tools and custom parameters, and then you can do, let's say, I'll add a parameter here, and I'll call this SSO username. Hit apply, and if I'll head back to my user access SSO, and I'll take a look at the parameter SSO username, I can map it directly here. And obviously you can map it to whatever it is you have on your project, so strips and text boxes, etc. You have to override SSO logout redirect. You can, whenever somebody logs out, you can override it with your own URL. In my instance, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'll hit apply, and now we'll get to the interesting part. So I'll save this configuration, and I'll hit publish, and let's take a look at my site. So I can see I'm logged in. You see that it passed the SSO part. I'm just gonna open this in incognito mode. So let me just copy this guy, and I'll take a look at my published version. And now you will see it will ask me to log in order for me to access the project. So if I'll log in, I need a verification code. Let me grab that. All right, here it is. I'll verify, and it will take me back to my site. Amazing. Now let's just say you want some parts of your Titan web project to be SSO enabled and some parts to be public. So let me show you how you can get this done. So if I head back to my Titan web project, and I'll look at the pages here. Every page, once I click it, you can decide if inherit from project or public. Same goes for every single page in here. If I'll select public, then it will be public to everyone. If I'll select inherit from project, it will force SSO on that page. All right, so that's wonderful. So let's leave the product catalog as public, and we'll head over to save and continue, and we'll head over to customer service, and we'll say I want this to be SSO protected, and I want this as well, the create case, to be SSO protected. Wonderful. Let's save this guy. And before we publish, let's just put the debug mode on. So project settings, tools, debug mode, and let's save it, and let's publish. All right, so we can see that we can access the home page, click the buttons, everything here is loading. And if I will go to my customer service page, suddenly I'm required to log in using the SSO. So let's log in, redirects me back, and let's create a case. And let's put some priority. And let's save it. All right, let's head to our Salesforce integration logs. Let's take a look at the case. And if I look at the created by, I see that the case owner is Brave Donkey. Now, since we did the user session, if I'll open incognito mode and I'll go to my website from here, and let's go to customer service, and let's log in with a different user. And I'll do the same. Let's create a case. Select the product and hit save. And I'm going to go back to my integration logs and let's take a look at the case. And we can see that the case owner is gal temp. So it ran, the push ran on that user session. So whatever it creates or gets from Salesforce will run on that user, the logged in SSO user session. Let's take a look at the bug and see that the hiddens that we mapped came to our hidden, to the parameters. So the parameters that we mapped from the SSO, we have them as a parameter. Now what you can do with it is limitless. So let's take a look. Technically we can go and amend the get for the case to bring only that user's cases. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll head over to my get here. So Salesforce, and we want to edit this guy, case custom support table, customer support table. Set over to conditions and say owner ID equals, we'll do SSO user ID. This is the parameter that we get from the SSO. And I'll hit apply. Let's close this, save. And I'll head over here and refresh, and we should see less cases. All right, so let's refresh this guy, and there it is. We see that the gal test is not here no longer. And if I'll head over to the gal user and refresh the page, we can see only 2 cases under him. So this is very, very useful for us to have these parameter mappings from the SSO. And again, you can pass in whatever it is you want as additional custom attributes from the SSO. All right, let's take a look how we do this with the community. So let me just reset the SSO here, and we'll start with the community mapping. All right, so let's go to our account, and I'll head over to push settings logs, and I'll revoke the SSO access since we want to grant SSO login URL has to be the community URL. So I'm going to grab my certificate from before, put it in here, SSO login URL, and head over to my setup, go back to the connected app, and we'll find the Titan Web SSO. And let's view it. Click on manage, and for communities, I have my login URL, and this is what I'm going to use. All right, now you want to make sure this stage is very crucial. You want to make sure you're not logged in as the community user from your admin account. So let's say this is a community user. You don't want to be logged in. If I click this login to community as a user, you do not want to do that and then configure your SSO. So when you configure your SSO, the best practice is just to open a new incognito mode tab where you have no sessions, and just log into Titan from there and configure the SSO from there as a proper community user, and we'll do just that in just a moment. Another thing to review is to make sure that your community user has the community user profile has access to your connected app. So in my instance, the community user running on Gold Partner User or Gold Partner User Clone. I don't remember which, but one of them for sure. So I gave access to both of these profiles. All right, so let's just do this right now. I'm gonna log in from our community, from our incognito mode, and we're logged in, and I'll head over to my account and push settings logs, grant access to the SSO, put the certificate in, grab the SSO login URL from here, the community, so the correct community, like we've said before, you can have multiple communities, and we'll put it over here, and we will hit test, and we have a community user. I'll log in with that one, and there we have it. Hit apply, and now our SSO is configured with the community. The only thing we have left to do is now you can work normally on your regular Chrome without incognito, and you can do it with the regular instance as well. You just have to make sure you don't have any active sessions on your community, especially with the login as admin feature. All right, so let's head over to user access, and we'll put in SSO, hit configure, and we're in. Let's see our parameters. So we have the username, and we have the user ID. That's perfect. Everything is configured correctly. And now I'll hit publish. Let me just log out from my community. Perfect. And if I'll go over here to customer service, it will require me to log into the community. Let's take a look at our parameters, and we can see that our SSO username is the partner username, the community username. And this is how it's